alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello, everyone. I am back with another stream here. Thanks for joining me. Having some technical issues, so I apologize for being late. I have the great, let me mute this here. I have the great Narwhal and his partner, Jared Jewell here. Two geniuses behind the latest, soon-to-be classic hotel story. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our first guest here. Hey.
Yo.
How's it going, Narwhal?
Good. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
I found it on YouTube, so I'm tweeting that out now too. So we'll see. I see Snuggie Jr. in the chat. Thanks for being here.
Yes,
Snuggie.
yes. Thank you, Snuggie. Okay, so I don't have one. I just met Jared, so I don't quite know his personality yet. So I'm hoping to learn that, and then maybe down the road I can do a cool opener for him. But in the meantime, let's just go with this. Oh, and then a little side note here. We're having some audio issues. Unfortunately, Melon is giving Jared a hard time. So we're going to have to be a little bit weird and janky to allow him to participate in this interview. I apologize if it gets a little bit weird, but we just
it's almost like if he was like across the country or something, or across the world.
So he's in a war-torn, war zone right now, and he's risking his life to communicate with us because hotel story is so important. But without further ado, here we go.
You've earned it.
Nice.
Hello, Jared. Oop, hold on. Sorry.
Can you?
I can hear you now.
Cool. Hi.
Yeah,
How are you?
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, can everybody else in the chat hear the echo?
Oh, that could be interesting.
Just
Echo.
like
They do hear. So we'll mute Jared when we're talking, and then we'll unmute Jared when he's talking. So it'll be
okay, so we have him muted. I'm sorry. And then when we need him to respond, I will unmute. Again, I know that's very janky. I apologize. Please send all your complaints to Melon text support because there is none.
Yeah, we did spend like 15 minutes messing with it.
Yeah, we did. And I didn't want
figure it out.
I didn't want to make you guys wait any longer. So let me go ahead and see where's the chat up here. Okay, so hotel story. Who came up with that? Where did this idea come from? I did read on the Indiegogo that you guys met, was it 14 years ago, something like that, at a con in Iowa. Narwhal, you kind of saw Jared's work and was like, interesting. And I guess the friendship kind of, you stayed in contact, and then so just tell us where this idea came from. And Jared, if you want to jump in at any time, just put your finger up and I'll put you to the head of the class.
Yeah, we'll get our rhythm going. I can add a few things and then pass it to Jared, see if he wants to add anything. But there's two things I would say is, one, on the one hand, I had a unfinished script just sitting there, and I'd been wanting to work with Jared for a while. We'd worked on a couple little things, and he'd actually helped me. He colored Cerberus. That's a kind of interesting thing. So he's like full colorist. So he'd kind of become my collaborator on these other projects more and more. But I've been wanting to jump into like a big project with them, and I eventually did pull the trigger on this old unfinished script, and we kind of scrapped that one, started over from scratch together, but with the general same premise of kind of this witch casting a mass sacrifice spell in a hotel. I think even getting that far that it's a mass sac, because that kind of simplified the story too. Like it's just she's using the patrons of the hotel for a mass sacrifice. It's going to let her live another 500 years or whatever. Something very simple like that. Then we could kind of get rolling. And where I met Jared, I was in Iowa, and I didn't go to the college, but he did. But I went to one of the clubs on the college campus for Iowa University, or University of Iowa, and it was a video game making club. And through that club, Jared organized a comic jam. So one weekend we like ordered pizza and spent, I think it might have been 48 hours, but maybe it was just 24. But I think it was all weekend. We spent it in their cool labs. They have all the computers and drawing stuff, all this cool access to make awesome art. And everyone made a comic. And Jared's comic was really cool. And so the fact that he organized it and his comic was super standout and cool and very interesting style. And so from that moment, I was kind of like, oh, he's cool.
Yeah. So
to that, Jared,
is your art style, Jared, and I'll unmute you here in a second. Is it similar to Narwhal's? And I apologize, I haven't had a chance yet to really get to explore your work or anything yet, but I'm hoping to do so here, especially when I eventually get Hotel Story. But let me go ahead and unmute you here.
Right. I mean, I've heard some people say that there is some similarity in regards to Narwhal and I's art styles. And I know Narwhal. He usually pitches my art style as a more cartoony, because there's a lot more influence from like 1950s, 1960s UPA style cartoons, like a lot of like a lot of what you would see either in advertisements around that, like a lot of like commercials around that time, or
and I'm just going to interject real quick here for those who are unaware. What is the UPA style?
Right. UPA, it stands for United Productions of America, if I remember correctly.
So
it's like a kind of an umbrella term for a lot of like 1950s modern cartoon style. And by modern, I don't necessarily mean contemporary. I just mean like, it's, like the art movement in the 1950s is often referred to as modern. And a lot of it is like, there's a lot of like, there's a lot of it seen in like a lot of jazz albums around the time. It's very like, it's like, it kind of goes against like because like before that, there was a lot, like cartoons usually went in a more like golden age Disney style kind of like you could think back to something like like Snow White or Pinocchio, whereas like the UPA style went went a lot more stylized, a lot more like a lot more geometric. And then you can also think of a lot of like Soviet Eastern European
I was going to ask, I just interjected right there, sorry. And so it has the European influence then.
Yeah,
right.
If you real quick too, if you're like they'll do really cool pastel abstract paintings and then draw like in white chalk without even filling in the forms but the white chalk sits on top of the pastel painting. That's kind of like a UPA staple, and we do that a little bit in Hotel Story. Like Chuck Jones kind of did a fair amount of that too, and he's not even quite, he had a UPA like era where he was doing a little bit more of that kind of stuff. But that's where like, yeah, for us in the bar scene. So like you could like the Disney style is you draw and paint every single little like thing of whiskey or whatever, and then the UPA style is it's like more minimalist and more abstract, but still you can tell what it is. But it's kind of cool. But that's where you like smear a cool texture across of like the moodiness and then draw.
I gotcha.
Or all the whiskey or whatever.
Snuggy Jr. was asking who's writing the story.
Yeah, we co-wrote it, and then the writing, it's because available in the campaign is the making of, and there's like hundreds of emails back and forth. It's almost through email and some meetings with heavy notes is kind of how we wrote it. And I was looking back over it because I might have forgot this otherwise, but the workflow was I kind of send a very heavy outline to Jared of almost like bullets of exactly what needs to happen. And then he wrote it. So he would always do the first pass. And then he would send it to me, and then I would adjust anything I'd want to adjust for what I might be planning or what we could do. So he gets a lot more of the imprint of his like fun sensibilities with the characters and the dialogue kind of got in there. And it was fresh for me working that way, because it does step it outside of the norm of what I would normally do. And then I also still got to my like strength, or one of the things I enjoy doing is focusing a lot on kind of the structure and the narrative drive. And with this story being such a simple story, a lot of that is almost just like the logistics of the strategy of how they survived the witch's spell.
Yeah.
And like we made a map of the hotel, and we figured out like, what would you do if you're in this situation? Because we don't want anyone acting stupid unless their character is that they're dumb. But usually it's more that there might be like one coward and one a little more brave, and they'll do two different things, but neither of what they do is stupid. That a lot of times what we think of as plot holes is when a character's acting really stupid when they shouldn't be, and it's just like they do something convenient for the plot to continue. And so we kind of try to never do that, where it's like if anything convenient is happening for the plot but not for the characters, that's wrong, and we need to go back. And it's like, well, if one character is going to do something, then that's the plot. Like, well, let's go that way. We'll figure that out. Figure out what they're going to do, what we can do with that.
So you had kind of you said you had the rough idea for this already. How much of the story would you say was kind of there before you got together with Jared and started really working on the meat and potatoes?
It was like 10%, or maybe a little bit even less. I think the very first iteration of the script, it might have been like 20 pages, but it was about a boys basketball team and a girls basketball team that kind of meet on the highway, and then they both get derailed and kind of have to stay at a hotel overnight. And that's when the witch's spell happens, and then they have to survive.
Oh, wow.
And we lost pretty much all of that. In our story, it already takes place at the hotel, starts at the hotel. There's a tennis tournament the next morning, so the hotel is filled with fans and athletes having to do with the tennis tournament.
And what time frame, like what time period does the story take place?
It's contemporary. I think people have like cell phones and stuff, but the witch's spell kind of puts a bubble around the hotel, so the cell phones stop working. And then it takes place. The setting is relatively important too. It is a European setting. It takes place in Istanbul.
Oh, yeah.
So in Turkey. So it's like a foreign tennis tournament.
Constantinople. Here, let me go ahead and unmute Jared here, and I'll shut up. And is there anything you wanted to add real quick?
I can't think of anything else to add. I think that that covers pretty much.
Yeah, here, let me mute that. I just wanted to make sure you didn't feel excluded or anything. So
no, this is a good little whatever thing you got going.
It's working. Like I said, it's janky, but I definitely wanted you to participate because I really love the animation that you did, especially for the promo here, which I'm going to bring up here in just a second. It is really really impressive. And Narwhal, your style, it's funny that I heard EVS mention this on one of his streams the other day. He described it as it's almost like an animated anyway when you're reading it, the way you kind of compose all your characters and the different panels. It does feel like as you're reading the story that you are watching an animated story. So, and I know you were diving into animation a little bit with some of your Earthbound characters and the story there. So it was really neat to see, your style, and then Jared animated it and everything. I thought it was quite impressive. It married really nicely.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that turned out really well. And we learned a lot doing it. And we immediately were like, we got to do another. So we're working on just a straight up regular short film now that it's based on one of Jared's comics that he did.
Oh, nice.
And that's a lot of fun. And that will be out maybe early next summer or so. So everyone keep your eye out for that. But yeah, as far as my style being animated, it was like, for some reason, that was always kind of my goal. I just kind of like how frames of animation look. I kind of even like it more than, because one of the main differences is the level of inking and rendering. Like animation, usually it'll have almost no rendering on the characters. It's like the lines, the inking is just for the outline of the character to hold the shapes almost. And that's for like mainstream animation like Disney or whatever. But then comics will often have like really nice, cool rendering, which is awesome. But I don't know why, but I've always liked that look from animation. The other thing animation will kind of do is this kind of collage look where the background is more rendered than the characters. So the background might be painted, and then the characters are very flat. And that's a little bit what we do in Hotel Story too. We have this kind of collage feel of using the low poly 3D backgrounds, kind of give this like they have the gradients and the fully rendered feel to them, even though they're kind of simplified. And then the characters go over the top of that. And that's how I did Earthbound Grand Prix too. Not the original Earthbound, but Grand Prix is that style.
I hate myself. I have a whole stack here and I still have to get to it. I want to reread 1 and 2, and then so I can jump right into that and it will flow nicely.
Nice.
So yeah, I have my homework to do. I have a whole bunch of stuff here I've been reading. Joe Frankenstein, Von Klaus's Terror in the Trenches, Zombie Sama. So yeah, I have a bunch I wanted to do, kind of like a Halloween theme and everything. Dale A is saying the pinned link in the chat doesn't go to Indiegogo. Well, that's not good. Let me go ahead and fix this. We can
fix that. I see Tom Tuttle in the chat. What's up, Tom T? Snuggie Jr., when you asked us who does the writing, Snuggie's like, or was it Snuggie someone? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Snuggie goes.
Yeah, Snuggie Jr.
Narwhal did the nouns, Jared did the verbs. That's kind of
funny. He's always funny. All right, let's see. Back Hotel Story.
Dilly says it goes to streams. I wonder,
that is so
I've done
weird.
that before. You post the link to the stream.
That's great. We're going to have people jump in it.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
starts echoing even more.
IGG,
like the ultimate echo.
Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's try this. All right, try that, guys, and see if that goes to, and I'll see if I can pin it here. Oh, we're just foobarring this show left and right here today, aren't we?
I like it. I like a good
that's what you could expect, folks. Just we're keeping it real here. All right, so let me go ahead. I brought up she was here. And let's go ahead and check out this really awesome video here.
Nice.
Synthesize.
You must be hamming it up for a big tip.
Sin the size. 3 simple syllables. They may not mean much to you now, but by the end of this night, they will.
There's a witch in this hotel. My mission is to stop her. Could mean certain doom for many if she completes her spell.
We're bringing that knowledge back with us to the real world, but we're giving it a special touch.
Don't suppose I know you.
Adrian.
You're a famous party pooper.
At your service.
Nice.
Very cool.
That cool logo, many people have commented on really liking the logo, and Jared did that by hand, just drew it. So he's really good at that. That would almost be something, I don't know if anyone's out there about to launch a book and you haven't done a logo yet, you could confidently hire Jared to help you with that.
The logo here, the Hotel Story.
Yeah. He's not officially a graphic design guy, but he's got all those skills. So
it looks good to me. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how long did it take to put that together? Let me go ahead and once again shut up.
It was like a month, and it might have been a month almost full time with us both working on it. And then, yeah, sorry, Jared, you can go ahead.
Yeah, here, let me go ahead and there we go.
Hello? All right,
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. As far as how long it took to make the trailer, it's hard to say exactly. I remember I had taken maybe about an evening to come up with to put together a storyboard for it, and I think we didn't get to it right away. We did have to. I forget if right. I think once we got the storyboards done, we got in contact with the voice actors for that, and then once we had the recordings for that, I did some of the I chopped up the audio for it, and then once I was all ready to go, I think I spent about I remember spending a weekend getting the storyboard or getting an animatic put together, and that. So once that was taken care of, it was just a matter of replacing footage as we started getting animation done for it. I want to say that the amount
Uh-oh.
Is it?
a week at hello.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just taxing on your computer, unfortunately.
Taxing on my computer.
What was that, Jared? Sorry. You were saying you want to say it something.
I want to say it took around maybe a week or 2 weeks, like of total amount of time, because we worked on it sporadically, because we worked on it in between some of the projects that we were working on, either the projects that we are already collaborating on, or just like some solo projects that each of us have on lined up.
Yeah, like your day job type stuff.
Right.
All right, so I'm just going to mute it again there. Yeah, it's for those who are just joining us, there's a weird janky melon audio issue going on. So I have to unfortunately mute Jared when Narwhal and I are talking. Otherwise, we get that crazy audio loop. Yeah, echo. So we're trying to avoid that. But I also want Jared to participate because I really love the work. And I love, like I said, I love this intro or the little promo here, and the voice actors. What was involved in finding that, Narwhal?
Yeah, I'd worked with them before on even the Earthbound 2 animation I did the year prior. Who was it? It's Brandon, and I can't think of the woman right now. We should. Sorry about that. Too. If they're, I should. I got.
If she ever sees this, you are important.
Yeah, I'll find it and because I haven't talked to her in a few months now, so it's in the back of my mind. I have to access it, but she's awesome. And I initially had tweeted out because I wasn't even sure how to go about it, navigating working with voice actors, and she reached out and she kind of became my casting director. She's like, I know a few people to help you with, because that's what I want. I was like, can you help me? And she's like, I'll
take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, instead of posting it publicly and getting 200 responses and filtering through them, it's just like she would reach out to 3 or 4 friends and I would pick the best one. And she introduced me to multiple actors and actresses that me and Jared both really, liked their work, and they were all great to work with. And working with voice actors too, what has been a fun experience, because the first time I did it, I was pretty darn nervous. And then now I've done it 3 or 4 times now, and I'm getting a little less nervous, where it's like directing actors, like you kind of gotta, their first reading might be like lacking context. So it's kind of crazy. Like they're actually really good at what they do, but if they don't have context,
what's my motivation?
Yeah. That's like when, if you hear like Resident Evil voice acting and how it's so infamously terrible, like some of those old video games, the voice acting is just so bad. And some of that is
rubbish
because
back then.
Yeah, they recorded it like in Japan with American actors, and no one was there to give them context. So it's like, yeah, they were pretty good actors, but they don't even know how to say it. That's actually even like in some of Bruce Willis's later movies. There's some really funny line deliveries, and it's kind of tragic because he got that like brain disease or whatever. And now he's retired.
Yeah, he has Alzheimer's, and his wife was talking about that. It is very sad, and it's like she was saying, it's like he's almost dead already, the man that she knew. And it's such a tragic disease, because you watch them slowly diminish. I've had family that had dementia, and not as severe as Alzheimer's. They could still function and everything, but it's like a slow death, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's horrible.
Yeah, but you can see these lines that you're like, they're a good actor, but that was a weird line reading.
Weird delivery, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all you're doing when you're working with them, is trying to give them the context so they can give the kind of correct line reading, basically, because they can do it. You just need to be the one to tell them.
You kind of set up the scene and everything, and what they would be looking at, were they that character? And everything.
It is almost like what you'd think, the cliche, like what you said, of like, here's what your character's feeling, here's what they want, here's what's kind of stopping them, now go. And if you even
I was going to say that the guy, he sounds almost familiar. I don't really watch a lot of anime, but he has one of those voices where I feel like I've heard it, in some sort of Japanese anime before.
Yeah,
Is
he
he
gets more and more
famous?
mainstream work, but I don't know what he's been in recently or not.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just really good as part of why it sounds so cool, kind of.
It's like a Black Butler kind of vibe or something.
Yeah, and that was our decision as writing. We wanted that character to have, it's the possessing, we call him the liminal angel, and he can possess dead bodies. And he's sort of like the main good guy, even though he's kind of like Mad Max or whatever. Like the actual main characters are the humans, and he's kind of the one helping them. And he has his own kind of things that he has to do to stop the witch. But we wanted him to have a British accent. We wanted Peter O'Toole specifically,
yeah.
I
could see that. And then, so does that character have a history with Salome the witch?
In the story, what actually, Jared, do you want to take that one?
Here, let me unmute you here.
I almost feel like Narwhal might have a bit better grasp on it, because the idea between Adrian and Salome is sort of a cops and robbers idea.
Well, we'll jump over.
I'll
if you want to kind of
take it, but that is actually interesting.
A cops and robbers kind of thing.
That's true. That he's almost like, they're like, the angels are like spiritual FBI. This people he worked with, the liminal angels, and there's two of them you meet. There's like Adrian and his boss, but only one of them can enter, and that's Adrian's powers. He can possess dead bodies, and we play with that as the story goes on. Kind of more and more like things can happen to make that kind of a fun kind of thing that happens. But they do have like a little dialogue exchange where they actually haven't met in person, but they're familiar with each other's reputations.
Yeah. They each have a rep.
Yeah.
How old is Salome? Are you allowed to give that away yet, or will that be given away too much?
Yeah, we'll get the exact number, but she's at least 500 years old. She might be 1,000.
Wow.
I think we were kind of joking, but she had a backstory, and we ended up cutting it out of the script, but we're making it a little short story to go with for the bonus for the day one backers. Get the mini comic is a little bit about her kind of origin.
I love this this page here where the dude loses his head, and it's just like thwack.
yeah, it's like, because he can possess dead bodies, and so the first thing she does is kind of dismember him to make him even less being able to utilize the body well.
And he's still like chatting and everything.
Yeah. So that's kind of almost like a humor element. I don't know, but like Evil Dead is like that. Dead Alive, a lot of these awesome 90s horror movies. So those were all big influences. And that's another thing that we play with a lot too, is it's kind of a gory version, almost comedy, but not the kind of comedy that lowers the stakes. Sometimes if you have like that new modern Marvel kind of comedy, sometimes they're joking when they should be being very serious. And
what they call it, the guy that directed Buffy or created Buffy, like his kind of humor. And I think it's it's ruined entertainment to some extent. It worked for Buffy and Angel and Firefly a little bit. Joss Whedon. Joss
Whedon. It got like bastardized because those are fun. Like Buffy is fun, and Buffy does have super intense, serious moments. And then but it's like somehow people started putting the goofiness in the serious moments, and then it like doesn't work.
And that's not necessarily. I mean, it just seems like a lazy man's way to kind of lighten the mood. And I think they should be a little bit more creative in doing that. I had another question here about the Obol. I know we focused a lot on the hotel story, but this is the second book. It's actually, is it going to be included within the book, or are they two separate?
Yeah, that's like the bonus book, and that one's all Jared. Jared, I'll let you just take this one, and maybe I can add if there's anything else. But
yeah, let me go ahead and unmute you, and I will be quiet.
Sure. So with the Obol, the origin story for it is that I had a show that I was going to be tabling at earlier this year. And I spent about a month and a half putting this together. It was an idea that I wanted to do for a while. It's kind of my approach at a more American Gothic kind of story. It takes place on a steamboat, and it's kind of a combination of some like I said, of sort of an American Gothic kind of story, as well as some sprinkling of Greek mythology within it, hence the title, The Obol.
I'm just going to mute real quick. And and for us that aren't aware, what is the Obol in reference to within the Greek mythology?
Right. So in Greek mythology, there is most people are familiar with the underworld, and there's a ferryman. He goes by the name Karen. So the burial rite for ancient Greeks was to place an obol, which is a low value coin that they would place it underneath the tongue of the deceased, so that when the dead make their way to the toward to the ferryman, they would offer that as their fee in order to ride the ferry into the across the river Styx into the underworld. And then if they don't have a way to pay that fee, then they would be forced to wander along the shores as a shade for I hear different sources on it, but it's either they wander on the shores for about 100 years, or either that, or they're there for essentially eternity.
Dang.
So the obol I use the obol as it's more so a reference to as a title. That I use the obol as more as a reference to its Greek influence. Although in the story itself, there is an obol, there is an actual obol being utilized as part of the plot.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm familiar with I guess some of the ancient cultures used to put the coins on the eyelids and everything to pay the ferryman and everything. So I was unfamiliar with the putting under the tongue. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. That's a 48-page black and white standalone horror story. And it kind of reminds me of some of the things that I love, like Silent Hill, David Lynch. It's kind
very
of
atmospheric.
Yeah. And the thing Jared always does is he always mixes, there's just a slight edge of humor in there, but it's like surreal humor or something. It's like cartooniest humor that I
like a dark humor.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what a good problem is. One of the examples for this might be almost like a spoiler.
Oh, well, let's not ruin it for everybody. We want them to have to buy the book too.
But it's kind of a good mood. It's a cool mood thing, because we were just saying how humor can ruin the stakes, but there's this other way where there can be just the ever so slight hint of humor offsetting what's happening, and it's almost like it's kind of making the audience look twice, kind of, and you're wondering if what's going on with the story. It kind of improves the relationship with the story, like the interactivity. It kind of boosts it even.
And you're really big on the interactivity.
It's so that was something I responded to for sure because he just sent it to me and I read it. I just really liked it, and we kind of decided to have this be the bonus book. So then people can it's a cool debut for Jared. People can get Hotel Story, like a big 124 full page color graphic novel, get the Obol 48-page black and white, and that's going to be perfect on too.
We have the different tiers here. This will be a good time to kind of go over the different tiers. If you want just the Hotel Story graphic novel, $27. So that will get you, you said that was 100 and how many pages?
Yeah, 124. And
Yes.
we actually might be adding 2 pages, so that would make it 126. And then
nice.
funny for page counts, it has to be divisible by 4 for prints. It's like however that works. So then we'll figure out a way to make it 128, I guess. But that might just be a title page and then about the author or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then you have the 2-pack here that gets you Hotel Story and the Oboe. I think this was one of the ones that I got here. And then tell me what we could get if we get the large combo that has the making of book. So obviously you get Hotel Story and the Oboe. What kind of stuff can you expect to see in the making of? Is that some of your emails and everything back and forth?
Yeah, it's kind of similar because I've done it once before, so I'm a little comfortable putting it together. With the Narzac books, where we'll have the section where it's kind of just I'm screen capping the emails and you can see the correspondence back and forth. And it is kind of fun. If for people who are interested, I can imagine it being kind of fascinating. It's like, this is definitely the kind of content that when I was a kid, I would have loved to have seen. And I gobble it up every chance I get. Like if the private correspondences between artists as they're like developing a project. So there's that. But then this, because it's a collaboration between me and Jared, there's a ton of like art exchange too, the early phases, all the character design. And so yeah, this will be 64 pages black and white. And then the last thing we're including too that we chatted about, it's kind of a funny thing. I'm not sure how to pitch it the best way, but it'll include a little short story, kind of some extra lore for one of the characters, because this is a ensemble comic or ensemble story, meaning there almost isn't necessarily a main character. If you try and judge it by the classic of what the main character is, like who has the goal and what they're trying to achieve, it's actually Salome is like the one who like wants something, and everyone is just caught up in what she's trying to go for.
Right.
And I guess like, Dread is a little bit like that. If people remember that movie, like it's all takes place in like one room. It's a big action scene. And what's the Raid Redemption is kind of like that too. Like the character, if it's cops and robbers, sometimes like the cops are reactionary, the humans are reactionary to what the witch is doing. But then within that, everyone, has their own thing kind of going on and what they are doing and trying to survive. And so with those kind of stories, everyone naturally will kind of tend to pick a favorite even. And me and Jared both like Gary, even though Gary, he's this like alcoholic loser kind of, and he's drawn
is that the guy that kind of almost resembles Dilbert a little bit?
Yeah. And he's like, he reminds me of like Blogart, although Blogart was a little more likable. Yeah. So
that little guy.
Gary's like pretty funny and we get a real kick out of him. And I wonder what people's response, like if he becomes like the Blogart, but the thing is that if we force it, then he might not. So it has to be natural. I'm not even sure, but for us, we kind of like him. So Jared was like, I've been thinking about Gary's childhood, and I laughed. I was like, yeah, we got to include just some info because it doesn't even matter, but it's like kind of funny. So there'll be some extra Gary lore, we call it, and it'll be.
Yeah, I'd want that just to hear about Gary. I was watching one of your streams where you were kind of coloring or whatever, and he was trying to sidle up next to a woman who was dancing or something, and he was just kind of by her dress, but he was it just looked so awkward for him,
Yeah, that's the one. It's his one chance to talk to Mallory, who the proto for what she is funny too, and I always forget his name. Is it Tony? It's like the public speaker who's really famous and
oh my God, what's his name? Dan? No, trying to call him like Tony Danza or something. It's not that. Tony Robbins. Yeah.
So Mallory is like exactly like Tony Robbins basically, and she's having an event that night too, so everyone's going to it. And Gary, it's his one chance to like get to muck it up with Mallory and then maybe get a business kind of deal going or whatever. So he's super nervous, so he keeps drinking, and everyone's like, dude, don't drink too much.
And do that kind of like red nose rosacea kind of thing from
yeah.
No, it's really cool. And so, okay, this is in Turkey, so I'm guessing it's kind of like an older style hotel. How large is the hotel? Like how many victims?
Yeah. I think, did we say it's like 70 high? Jared, I'll let him answer too, but it's something like that. It's like a pretty big hotel.
Yeah,
And
here I'll unmute you here, Jared.
I think what our I think we decided that it was about an 8-story hotel with and it has a sort of a U-shaped structure to it with a courtyard in the middle, and then there's also a pool on the left side of the front.
I hope somebody gets murdered in the pool.
Yeah, we play with the pool. And there's 2 wings. Yeah, like that U shape. There's like a left wing, a right wing in the middle. Yeah, 8 floors with the suite, I think, at the very top is kind of the general structure. And it is within the story. It's the old name is the Hotel Pagonis, and it's named after a family name that's like loosely tied to, can trace it back to Salome a little bit. So there's some of that kind of world building in there too.
I like how you were saying earlier that you kind of mapped out the hotel so you could better, kind of get a feel for the motivation of the characters, how they would try to survive or escape what's going on. That's like a whole next level of, commitment and everything.
Yeah, it's nice with that due diligence to kind of relax that it's fun that we know the logic lines up. We don't like cut to the hotel, show the maps, and like it's almost like bragging about it. Like, hey, reader, just so you know, everything lines up. It just we kind of just have it flow, but we know in our heads. And one of the things that comes from that is even like just little plot points, little inspirations can come up. Like there's Chuck and Estelle are 2 of the characters, and they end up splitting up because he's kind of an asshole, and she's like a hooker with a heart of gold. That's sort of the beginning prototype for her. And
I love that, hooker with a heart of gold.
Yeah, and he sends her to get ice. So and she's like, are you really sending me to get ice? Like that's so ridiculous. And he goes, did I stutter? So she has to go down the hall, and the ice is on like the first floor. So when all this crazy shit hits, she's kind of stranded and kind of screwed a little bit.
Oh, you're not going to kill the hooker with the heart of gold, are you?
You'll have to read to find out, but that's part of the fun is who lives and who dies. And we there's kind of an old trope with these kind of stories too, where you can always have someone that the audience, they're obviously rooting for people to survive, but they also sometimes root for people to die. Like the people they really don't like, they just hate them and they want them to die. And you can play with that. You have them keep surviving. And everyone's like, God, I just want that stupid asshole to die.
Yeah, so like the did I stutter guy. I already don't like him. I already want him to die in a very creative and fun way.
Yeah.
Snuggie has an interesting question, and inquiring minds want to know, how much does she charge? Is she a mid-class hooker, a high-class hooker? I mean, what are we dealing with here?
Chuck's pretty wealthy, and she's with him for the whole weekend, so she charges a lot, I bet. And then he's kind of that kind of customer, and then he's an entitled jerk kind of.
Nice. And so you said that you were going to leave this open for maybe 4 months or so. Art's all done and everything.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I really admire about you. You always have a project in the works, and you crank them out. And I don't know where you get your energy from, for all your ideas and everything, but you just create left and right, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, and then that's thanks to Jared, the collaboration with him, because I was working on Cerberus and Grand Prix, and Jared was working mostly on Hotel Story, and I was helping with some of the editing and stuff. But so that's one way I do it, is with collaborations. And then it's always like building the train tracks while you're on the train. And so you hope to have the next one ready when the next one's done, kind of. And yeah, I was counting the months. It's like, if you count October, November, December, January, and then like that's still kind of early in the year, so maybe we'll even stay open February. But about February, it would definitely close down. That would be everyone's last chance to get it. But I've noticed that I had a few campaigns that I launched really fast, like even Grand Prix. I think it was only available for like for 3 or 4 weeks total.
Yeah.
So a lot of people missed it, and I was like, yeah, if we like this one, we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to who wants to back it to have a chance. Like if you want to put away $1 a week for 4 months and then buy it.
Yeah, it'll give people a chance to save up, and I think that's really cool. And do you have the second one kind of planned out?
Yeah, it's fully written, and we've ironed out a bunch of the workflow, which was really fun to even design and work with Jared in that way. And I can let him comment on it a little bit, but yeah,
on the workflow, the nature of the workflow.
Yeah, Jared, do you want to comment a little quickly on the workflow and then how that going forward to part 2, a little bit how you foresee that playing out, kind
of? Sure. Because I know some of the early stuff we did was getting some of the 3D environments worked out. Because I know Narwhal worked on one of the first things that we worked on was the foyer for the hotel, and then I want to say about it was kind of a split between, like, I would say he worked on half of the environments and then I worked on half of the environments. So once we got those figured out, then it was a matter of going to thumbnails, getting layouts figured out for those, and then bringing in a rough pencil stage, and then from there making any, because we would meet after the thumbnail stage to get that, to make sure that the layouts were, like, we were both happy with the layouts, and then the rough pencil stage was more just kind of fine tuning poses and just clarity and all of that, and then moving on to lines and coloring and lettering.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Or sorry, Jared, real quick. One thing too is, like, and maybe you're going to say this, but going into Blender, into the 3D environments, using a camera simulator or whatever, like Blender's version of the camera, taking photos almost like a viewfinder, and then you just put those under the page, under the pencils, and then you do the finals of the characters over the backgrounds. That's where it gets that animation collage kind of feel. And so Jared is kind of the one to do pretty much all that. And there's ways where it goes faster, there's ways where it goes slower, and but the more we do it, the kind of better and smoother it gets. And yeah, I'm kind of anticipating that part 2, could potentially go rather fast. And we were thinking too, like, man, if this ever does get going really fast, we can do other stuff. Like, I'm like, we could just keep our little comic company going and keep putting.
Yeah, seriously, why not? Definitely keep it coming. Then when you guys become really famous, I could say, I knew you when.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything to that, Jared? Sorry.
I don't think there's too much else to add. But yeah, pretty much that'll probably be a similar workflow for part 2. There's still a few more environments that we'll need to make for some of the scenes coming up, but other than that, it should be more or less straightforward.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to mute you real quick, Jared, so I could ask this question. For people who might not be aware of your work, or people who just discovered you, like myself, where can we learn more about your projects and what you've done? Do you have any other books that are available right now, or projects that you're working on?
I guess at the moment I don't have any major projects going on. I do have an itch.io page where I have a handful of comics that I've released over the last couple of years. And on that same page, there's also a couple games that I've reviewed, different game jams. They're not like any like big game projects at all. Like one of them is an RPG maker project that I worked on over a 48-hour period, and then the other one is kind of in the same vein as that, but using a different game engine. It was a browser based engine called Bitsy. So they're like not they're very low stakes projects, but they're available on that itch.io page. And it would be under my username Housetosis. I'm not sure if that's I'm actually not sure if that's visible right now, but
yeah, it looks like it just has your regular name on there. I'm not seeing the rest the rest of it there.
right. And I do have a Twitter profile as well. That I don't like. I should post on it more frequently, but it's it has a few other some few illustrations here and there. There's some of that, and then other than that, my other creative output is through music. So I've done a few different I've done a number of tracks here and there, and then I have done the soundtrack for a game in the past called Bid Dungeon 3. I've worked with someone who's also based in Iowa City who for that, and then I've done some pixel artwork. I did a little bit of pixel artwork for that project as well, but mainly I did the soundtrack for that game.
That's pretty badass.
Jared did the music for our trailer for Hotel Story too. So if you hear that, and it is really cool. And he did the music for the other animation I did for Earthbound 2 when I did my animation last year. And real quick, just to add to what you said, Jared. Yeah, he has 2 video games that they take maybe I don't know if it's 10 minutes to beat. They're very quick, but they're really fun and cool. So, and they're cool pixel art. They're totally worth checking out if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff. And then one of your
where can that be found? Where
that's on the itch.io page, which is it's Housetosis, and that's his Twitter. It's HOUZATOISIS. And then real quick too, there Jared has one comic that got published that I published previously in the B-sides. And that one is it's called Key Girl. What is it called, Jared? Key Girl something or
hold on, let me unmute him here.
It's called Key Girl Bug.
Yeah, Key Girl Bug.
And that am I muted or?
No, you're good, Jared.
Okay. Yeah. So that was that comic I actually had done the year before, kind of in a similar way that I did the Obol. That was also for an art show that I was tabling at. I actually did 2 books for that particular show. I had done one that was that I'd inked traditionally. It's called Salvus Filtrum. It's also available on my issue. And this one, I wound up I wrote up a really short 2-page script on one evening, and then I did a rough pass at it that took about 3 or 4 days, and then once I got that figured out, I spent about a week actually drawing it. So this was it was a really quick turnaround on that particular comic. It's not most narratively rich. It's not going to win any. I'm not sure if the Pulitzer. It's not going to win any Eisners or anything. But I kind of consider it for myself. Sometimes I tend to work fairly efficiently whenever I have a sort of time constraint regarding that. But and I showed this to Narwhal, and he liked it, and he did ask me if I wanted it included in the B-sides, and that's how I wound up in the anthology for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's some really cool stuff there. I'm just checking it there. I realized I didn't have it in big in there earlier, but I did in big in it now, so we can get to see some of your work here. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't get hung up on something, saying, oh, it's not going to be nominated for an Eisner or anything. It's cool to just get work out there and get published and everything, get people to see your work, get experience in doing it, and that's how we all grow at anything. So, I mean, I could never do that. Props to you, Jared, for for going out there and getting published. Same to you, Narwhal. You're always out there churning out your work and creating, and that's the way you have to do it. Hustle,
Yep. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Jared, he mentioned that he does this kind of workflow sometimes where it'll be like an upcoming deadline, and then he'll kind of crunch on his own. I think that con was coming up, so we took a break from Hotel Story just for maybe just 2 weeks even, and he was working on stuff it was actually for the Oboe, because Keygirl was 2 years ago. So then,
oh wow.
So then he comes to me and he did so it was 2 or 3 weeks he did the Oboe, and I was like, man, that's like impressive. You really had to crunch to get that done. And with that too, I was like, I really like the script and the writing. I'm like, how did you do it so fast? But there's one too. I don't know. Jared's writing some new stuff now, and it's like really good. So I think he just continues to get better and better. And so speaking of like Eisners and stuff, I'm like, sooner or later that might be on the table, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. God, and I've just noticed with your work too, Narwhal, from where you were back in 2019 and everything to where you are now, you're growing. And it's just a matter of honing your craft and everything. And I'm looking forward to kind of dipping in and checking out more of your stuff too, Jared. Like I said, I didn't really have a chance to know you before, but it's nice to get to know you now and kind of see, what you have worked on and what you are currently working on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
So anything else that you feel people need to know about Hotel Story before, before we dip out?
No, that was it's been a great interview. Thanks for doing this, Abra. And it's fun to come on and hang. Everyone, me and Abra have our own show too, that we do with
Jason Sandberg.
Yeah, with Sandberg, and we do the reviews. So check that out on my channel. We might do a rotating thing for that eventually, but lately it's been on my channel.
It'd be fun. We haven't decided on a name. We're kind of tossing some stuff around. Maybe once we decide on a name, I could do like an intro for it or something like that, and we could have it for all of our channels and whatnot. But yeah, for anyone who might be curious, we just so far Jason Sandberg's been picking out comics, and they've been ones that Narwhal and I aren't really familiar with, and we just kind of read it and then we all give our thoughts on it. From me, you get the perspective of kind of like the noob that's just getting into comics, like I guess the normie or whatever. And then from both Jason and Narwhal, you get kind of the artistic, insightful kind of, from their perspective from working in art and everything. So it's a fun little show. We do it, like Narwhal was saying, about every 4 to 5 weeks. And once we get a name for it, maybe we can start advertising it a little bit better.
Make it a little more official or something.
Yeah.
We've done like 2 or 3 now. So yeah. And
I guess anyone in the chat have any questions or anything? I know you guys kind of have some interesting stuff going on here. Snuggy was saying lots of good stuff doesn't get awards. That is so true.
I kind of joked that specifically Foreign Agent and Nosferatu are snubbed. Those are all every year. Every year, like I submit them in my head. I don't actually submit them. And then I award them the Narwhal. And
we'll just say you identify as a whale with a long tusk, and that's disabled, and maybe they'll pay attention to you.
Then I would pick up a few awards for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Weird times we live in, weird times where the people who have the skill and, it's not judged on merit. It's,
Yeah.
It is
Real
what
quick,
it is.
Yeah. And real quick, I'll just pitch Hotel Story one last time.
Yes,
Like,
please do.
I have kind of made peace with the fact that I really kind of like pitching my books in terms of movies, which sometimes that's not always a good thing. Like they're like, comics should be comics, movies should be movies. I'm like, but for whatever reason, I'm always drawn to comics, just kind of trying to be a movie-ish experience.
Because it dovetails into your style, probably.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say about that too is, yeah, you can compare comics to movies and whether it's good or bad, but the real question is if it's like a good movie, then good movies are in themselves are rare. And so, and there's an art to that, and it's all the structure and everything, the storytelling, the writing and the visuals all play into that. And so we really focus on that. We want it to feel like you're kind of watching a movie when you read this comic. And we were pretty successful with this. And especially when you put parts 1 and part 2 together, because it just gets, it continues to escalate exponentially in kind of how cool and fun it gets. And even part 2, there's just even more great stuff where it's going. So I can't wait. But part 1, one thing I'm kind of proud of is it does deliver the goods. Like you do get some awesome, fun possession action,
right,
and gore and horror and some kind of like the one of the magic rules. Once the spell starts, the kind of a side effect of it is the hotel gets enchanted and the mirrors become kind of like liquid where you can pass into this other world.
That was that point where the one character was touching the mirror and it looked like water and stuff.
Yeah. But in there you can't breathe. So that is like an issue. And so like it can be a little safe. You can kind of like maybe escape a normally would have been inescapable situation.
Right.
Like if you're surrounded in your room and they're coming in all sides, you could jump in the mirror, but then you can't breathe. So then you're like running in the mirror world trying to find another mirror or else you're going to die. So we like have that.
That's cool.
That's kind of, and that scene is like a lot of fun. And then there's even more played with those kind of rules. Cause it's a simple rule. You say you can't breathe in the mirror world. There's like 3 or 4 things that we do to kind of mess with that as the story goes on that people won't see coming. It's a lot of fun.
Does it tie into the real world? Like if you want to exit the mirror world, do you have to have, I guess, a mirror nearby in the real world?
Yeah. And like later on, even it's not even in part 1, and this is not exactly spoilers, but I'll just give you like one example is like as they start to understand this rule, they realize they can kind of, start to carry mirrors with them, and that can be kind of advantageous.
Interesting.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Now, I mean, now I'm curious how that works. Like if a woman had a, little makeup mirror, like would she be able to get into that?
Yeah, she would be able to stick her hand in, but her whole body.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She'd get stuck.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff it's not exactly spoilers, but I won't necessarily give it away, but that whole system gets played with in a lot of tons of fun ways. And then also the liminal angel Adrian possessing dead bodies gets played with in a lot of ways. And kind of, we try to do it in ways that you don't necessarily see coming. So that's part of the fun of the story is like the way these powers get utilized in ways that you don't see coming kind of.
And you were saying, I read on the page that even though there's 2 books, this one is still a complete standalone story.
Even more than like Cerberus got that comment. People are like, oh, it ended too abruptly. And even Earthbound, on some ends, you can almost take that as a compliment because they're like, oh, I just want more. And no matter more. Like they're going to want to read part 2. But this one just structurally, it really does like have in the middle is like this point, and there's kind of a part 1 and part 2. And the aspect of the spell hasn't wrapped up yet. They haven't escaped yet. But a lot of like there has been like the good guy and bad guy have like confronted and had their first big battle, and then they kind of from there they're like licking their wounds and figuring out what to do next, almost like the way like Empire Strikes Back ends or something. That's like
nice.
What ends. Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to this one, guys. So good stuff here. If you can. Please take a look at Hotel Story, guys. It sounds just really interesting. The animation in the trailer is just really top notch. Again, that was thanks to Jared. And Yeah, this looks like one you definitely don't want to miss out. There's 3 different tiers here. Again, just the Hotel Story graphic novel by itself. You get another one here with the Obel included with Hotel Story, and neat little. Jared was talking about it. This is his story. Kind of ties into a little bit of Greek mythology and the underworld, and then we also have the large combo, which features the making of, the behind the scenes. So you can see how how the soup is made, or whatever that saying is. So definitely please check it out, guys. You don't want to miss out on Narwhal's work, because this guy is, not going to lie, I don't think I've been shy about it. He's one of my favorite artists in Comicsgate and everything. And love your work, Narwhal. I think you are creative. Soup. Thank you.
Soup.
Soup.
For the homeless. I look like
for the homeless. Yeah. How the sausage is made. Yeah, because all the weird stuff goes into the sausage. But yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, everyone follow Narwhal. Please follow Jared Jewell. It is at, can you tell me what it is real quick here, Jared? At house.
Right. Housetosis.
Housetosis. And that's house with a Z.
Right. So it's HOUZATOSIS.
Awesome. And just had to mute you there again so I could speak. Thank you for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to have you both on, taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you, chat, for joining me here. Please, like I said, go check out Hotel Story. And thank you for putting up with my weird, janky melon audio issue here, Jared. I'm sorry I had to keep muting you. You were a good sport about it.
Nope, no problem.
All right. Anything else before we dip out?
I'm good. Yeah, just thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely my pleasure. I love hanging out with you guys. And thank you, chat, for tuning in. And I will catch you all in the next video. And please hang out, guys, afterwards for a few minutes. So, all right, we'll end it here. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Snuggie, Zed.
I've had enough. Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark's at it.
I'm glad you're home.
Get the hell out of my house. In Jesus' name, I pray.